Thank you for being here. Very impressed that so many people are in this room right now and not everyone left. I'm talking about continuous delivery of Jenkins pipelines. And yeah, we already talked about that. I work at FluidTime. We're best known for the Quando app, but we do a lot of other stuff as well. But we're mainly mobility focused. So what's the best way to go from A to B? Which ticket do you need, and how do you pay for it? The question is, how did I end up here? I'm CTO at FluidTime. I've been with the company for 6 years. I'm in charge of technical development, and I use Jenkins since 2012, and I really love it. The reason why I love not only Jenkins, I don't really care about the tool, but the reason I love CI and CD is that I not only have a computer science background, but also a business administration background, and I was always looking for the sweet spot where you could do both, like technology and the business side of it. And in my business studies, I focused on production management and supply chain management. And then I even visited a Toyota factory in Tokyo, and they have this Toyota production systems, and I don't have to tell you anything about that, but there's so many things in production going on that, or already going on that influence the software industry as well, and that's why I love it. And I'm here to learn. If you know anything better than me, yeah, welcome. Just tell me after my talk or raise a question. So I'm not going to talk a lot about continuous delivery itself. It's the main thing for me is to make release a non-event. Read these books. I really love them. Most of them are co-authored by Jess Humble. He's a great guy. Look at YouTube and his talks. And the most important part about continuous delivery and continuous integration is the deployment pipeline. And the deployment pipeline provides visibility, feedback, and control. And in this continuous delivery book, it's actually, I don't know, it's from 2010 or something like that. They have this figure. So the delivery team checks into your version control, and your deployment pipeline builds everything, and it should pass, but maybe they have forgotten something to check it in, or they didn't run their unit tests on their local machine. And it's very important that they get fast feedback. So they fix it, they check it in again, it gets triggered automatically. Ideally, of course, you could do polling as well. And then you do your automated acceptance test, and you get feedback on this. And yeah, you know the rest of the story, but my question is, how can we build this? Like, it's a figure in a book, and is it difficult to do? And I want to show you how you could do this with Jenkins. So who's already set up something like that, like a deployment pipeline? Who's using Jenkins for that? Oh, okay, that's not too bad. So as I said before, I don't care about the tool. But if you haven't set up a tool like this that can provide this functionality, you really should, whether it is GoCD or Jenkins or whatever. So while I love Jenkins especially, it's the #1 continuous integration delivery server. At least that's what they claim. It has been around since 2005. It's open source, and there's a big community around it. And the great power of it, but also one of their weaknesses, I guess, because it makes it it could make it a little bit convoluted, is that there are a lot of plugins. There are 1,200 or more than 1,200 plugins. And in the past, pipelines were like, there were a pipeline plugin, and it was just on top of existing Jenkins jobs, so you could set that up. But since Jenkins 2.0, it was released in 2016 as a LTS version, pipelines are first-class citizens. Now it's possible to have pipeline as code, and there's not only the pipeline as code feature, but also a new user experience, which is called Blue Ocean. And 1.0 was released in April this year, and 1.1 is coming very soon. And there's also Blue Ocean Pipeline Editor plugin. It's a beta, more or less, but it helps you to click together your pipeline. So the the nucleus of this whole thing is the Jenkins file. And the Jenkins file is written in a groovy DSL. It's like, come on, another DSL, another programming language I have to come up with. But it's not that bad. So that's how it looks like. You have you have a pipeline. It can have an agent, so you define on which machine it runs. And then you have stages. And you have your build stage, your test stage, and deploy stage. And they can have steps. But it's getting more complicated than that, of course. You can store the Jenkins file in your SCM, for example, Git or GitHub or whatever. So it has very good GitHub integration, actually. And this has additional benefits. You can do code review on your Jenkins file. You can have an audit trail, and you have a single source of truth. There are two syntaxes. I'm not too sure whether that's the plural, but and it's a little bit confusing right now because they've started with what they now call scripted pipeline, and this was very procedural, and you had to take care of handling exceptions, for example. And now they're rolling out declarative pipelines, and it's easier to set up, but it's not as powerful. It's new since Jenkins 2.5, and this is how it looks like. You have this pipeline header, and as I said before, it's not that. It's getting better, but there are still some quirks. For example, I defined here that I have an agent none because I don't want to block an executor for approval. That's important in the next slide. But it runs this pipeline, and you don't want to block any resources if it's not building, actually. And I said, OK, I want to disable concurrent builds. That means I only can have one instance of the pipeline. Then you have stages. And then you could have a build and unit test stage. Run it on any agent. You can define tools for the agent. Tools for the agent. And you can run your tests and your whatever, Gradle and NPM or Yarn. I'm not going into too much detail here. You have to handle this yourself. And another important thing is you can archive your artifacts, and then you can stash a number of files, or the whole workspace, more or less, and you can unstash them in your next stage. And you also have a post section after each stage, which can handle, for example, publishing your unit tests. You also have parallel execution. I just included it for fun. And what's very important is approval. So you can say, for example, I have an input step which says, do you really want to deploy this to stage? And only admins and Tom the tester and Pete the project manager can approve this. And so the approval, actually, it's only, of course, you could give everyone the right to approve this step, but it's only a matter of approval and not a matter of technology, and that's what's really interesting. And of course, you could also send feedback on failure to people who've checked in last. But actually, what I wanted to show is not only slideware, but a quick demo, and hopefully I have some time left. So what you need to do what I just showed you here is I run it on Docker. I'll provide the slides later. And I hope that I have internet. It's like the thing I didn't expect to worry about. So this is my Jenkins file. I have just created a Jenkins file in my GitHub. Of course, there could be some code in there as well. And it looks exactly like I showed you before. So you have the steps and stages included here. And you can easily create a new pipeline in Jenkins. I can say here, and I already did that. So here's my pipeline. Oh, sorry. I actually want to, let's just, I don't know, rebuild this commit. Every commit is the same right now because I haven't changed anything. Internet. Oh, that's the very nice. Yeah, OK, now it works. And now it runs the first stage, which is the build in the unit test stage. And it checks out my Jenkins file. So it already knows where my Jenkins file is. And if there's nothing interesting, it just hides it. So it's a very clean interface. Now it runs my automated acceptance test. I have nothing in there, just saying, yeah, I'm testing Chrome right now, and I'm testing Firefox right now. Of course, this would take some time. And now I'm at this deploy stage. And in CI/CD scenarios, the most important thing is that you have your code at deployable quality, so you can deploy at a fingertip, more or less. And I say, OK, I want to deploy this to stage. And we could say, everyone could do that. The developers could do that. The tester could do that. And they just click this link if they have the right to do it, and it would be deployed to stage in this step. And then this is where ops comes in. Or it depends. If you really are that agile that you say you build it, you run it, of course, it's your developers as well. But now I say, OK, do you want to deploy it to live? And I say, OK, just proceed. And yeah, and in this last stage, you would release it to your production server. So, whoop. Yeah, I made some screenshots. So actually, what I wanted to show is that we built exactly this deployment pipeline in Jenkins with a very small script. Of course, it's getting more complicated. You have to adapt it to your use case, whether you run NPM, or wherever you're on Gradle, or wherever you're on Fastlane. If you're an iOS developer or an Android developer using Fastlane, doesn't really matter, but it gets a little bit more complex. And you also have this pipeline editor. I'll just finish it on the slides. You have this pipeline editor where you can click together these steps, so it makes it a little bit easier to bootstrap your Jenkins pipeline. And what you also have in Jenkins, as I said before, there are 1,200 plugins. And the plugins can also provide steps for the Jenkins file. And there's a snippet generator. So if you click on Jenkins, and you have a pipeline job, it says there's snippet generator. And then you have all the steps available, and you can generate a pipeline script, a pipeline step for it, and then you can copy it back to your pipeline script. So I think I'm finished with my 10 minutes. These are references and further information. My name is Roman Pickl. I work for FluidTime. We are hiring, and thank you very much.
Great. You mentioned you're hiring. There was actually a question. Where you work at FluidTime is a good place to work?
Yes.
Okay, because there were.
Yeah, I've been there for 6 years.
I'm trying to be diplomatic here. There was actually a question. It's like someone went to Kununu and asked, "Do you trust Kununu?"
Well, I think it's important
Defend
to have
yourself.
platforms like that.
Yeah, no.
And we had some rough times, of course. Like, it's not very easy to be a small startup, like in scale. You know what I mean? And we've been around for 12 years now. As I said before, we had some rough times, but we are now a member of the Kapsch family since January 2017.
Okay.
And that makes it easier.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Kununu things from the last few months and years, it's getting better. Like, at least the impression. And I'm very happy to discuss this in detail.
I was actually able to ask a very sensitive question in a diplomatic way.
Perfect.
No, thank you for. I won't say who wrote it. No, but there was a question, and part of what WeAreDevelopers is part of like a marketing or hiring conference.
Yeah.
But I do have 2 questions related to your talk.
Okay.
Thank you for defending or actually clarifying the bad reviews on Kununu. It's actually better to talk to people directly, don't you think? Especially if you want to work in a company. So, Jan Pierre has asked a question: how do you test your Jenkins file? Do you always do a new commit?
That's a very good question. What you can do in Jenkins is that you can store the Jenkins file in your repository, but what you can also do is you can create a pipeline job and say, okay, to begin with, I don't want to store it in the in my repository, but just create it inside of Jenkins. And I can say here, and that really helps to bootstrap your, wait a second. Yeah, I can say here, create a pipeline job, blah, blah, blah. And you can, to start with, you can have your pipeline script directly in here, and that helps. But I think that it's getting better. I'm not too sure whether there is a JSON linter, but as I know that there is an IntelliJ plugin for the Groovy DSL, which makes it easier to at least make it syntactically correct. And that's how you can test it.
There's another related question. So why are procedural pipelines more powerful than declarative?
Because you can only use the steps they want you to use. And you can break out of this it's more or less a sandbox. You can break out of it with a script, with script tags. So you can say, okay, here my scripted part starts, and then you can do anything, and you can use Groovy variables, and you cannot, for example, at the moment, you cannot use Groovy variables outside of your inside declarative pipelines, and you will need that. So right now, you end up with a lot of these script parentheses, and then you do your procedure things in there.
Yeah. Thank you, Bernhard, for that question. Are there any questions in the audience? Before our next speaker is Michael Niesel. Is he around? To make sure he's around. Oh, the question here. A second.
Yeah, that's the pipeline syntax thing.
Is it? Will you get the hand mic? You got it.
Test. Is it possible to make some templates for creating?
Very good question. In Jenkins, you can use something they call Jenkins library. So you can, as I said before, it gets convoluted, but you can take functions in your Jenkins file and put them into a Jenkins library, and then you can include them back to your Jenkins files. So you can write functions that do something for you, and then just include it in your Jenkins file. But at the moment, it's like, in the last few months, it was changing so much that I was not looking too much into this opportunity, because like the whole DSL was not finished more or less yet, and now, that's what you would do.
Good. Roman Pickl from Fluid Time, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good.